This is James Taylor, and you're listening to The Creative Life. The Creative Life podcast is a show created for you, the creative. If you're looking for inspiration, motivation, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's a musician, writer, artist, designer, performer, educator, or creative entrepreneur. They share their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, their insights, and much, much more. In this episode, I speak with entrepreneur and author Tiisetso Maloma, and we talk about the startup scene in South Africa, mental health issues amongst entrepreneurs, and why entrepreneurship is actually a marathon and not a sprint. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's James Taylor. I'm delighted today to have Tiisetso Maloma, who's an entrepreneur and author of 4 books about entrepreneurship, creativity, and personal development. After becoming disillusioned with the traditional business plan, he devised an easier model called EBC, which he describes in his book, Forget the Business Plan, Use This Short Model. An entrepreneur himself, he has built businesses in accounting, music, clothing, television, and technology, and is heavily involved with the startup scene in South Africa. Indeed, one of his books, Township Biz Fastrack, gives insights and growth models for township-based businesses. His latest book is called The Anxious Entrepreneur, which is a manifesto and a guide for aspiring and new entrepreneurs. It's my great pleasure to welcome Tiisetso on the show today. Welcome there.
Hey, James, man. It's great to be on your show. I'm delighted about the conversation we're about to have.
First of all, share with the listeners, what's going on in your world just now? What are you up to at the moment?
Well, I'm busy. I'm heavily promoting the latest book, The Anxious Entrepreneur. It came out last year, the 14th of October. So I've just been, pushing it. I'm doing a lot of press. The press really down here, and in the United States has really been welcoming to the book.
And does it get any easier? You're now on I think it's your 4th book now. Does it get any easier now that you're on your 4th book with the promotion?
Yes and no. Yes, in that I've done 3 books so far, so I've got like the process. And no, in terms of with every book you wanna do better, you wanna reach new heights. So there's always that anxiety that you wanna take it to the next level.
And how did the entrepreneurial bug bite you? When did it all kind of start from you in entrepreneurship?
Well, I think as a kid, I've always wanted to make things. I remember watching a documentary on CNA on how Levi's and Puma really came back into the game. So I've always been that interested in being the guy who would make clothes, being the guy who would write a book. So I think that's where the inspiration, I don't know if it's inspiration or what, but sort of the drive I always wanted to make things, make products.
And did you come from a family that there were entrepreneurs in that family, or were they all doing very different types of jobs?
My family is quite into business. They like a business per se. So growing up, I've always been around people who were self-employed. That is on my father's side.
And then we hear a lot, especially up in North America and in Europe, about the really kind of burgeoning startup scene across Africa. But
Sure.
Often you hear that like Nairobi and Lagos, they seem to be stealing a lot of the limelight all the time as well. But my understanding, like the Johannesburg and the Cape Town, you kind of got there first in South Africa. So what is the startup scene like at the moment in South Africa?
In South Africa, things are really, bubbling up. A lot of people are creating apps for different uses, although I would say a lot of them do not make much money. Maybe it's because internet's quite a bit pricey, and not everyone is into credit cards as yet. So we still, like as a country, we're still coming up in as far as being consumers of internet-based products.
And
the development is there, yeah.
And so you've seen I remember when I think I read it kind of early on a few years ago, in terms of the startup scene in South Africa. There wasn't so much of a Silicon Valley style place, but there was a lot of work that went into fostering the community of angels and investors in South Africa as well, to invest in kind of young entrepreneurs as well. What is it like in terms of once you have an idea, maybe you've started you've kind of done your initial market testing, and maybe you've got the minimum viable product out there as well. How easy is it to then kind of get some funding to then take it to the next level?
Well, if it was a year and a half ago, I would say it was hard. But up recently, I've seen a number of startups really get funding, and a lot of conventional institutions are sort of creating new branches that focus on investing in startups. Before, there wasn't really money for startups. It was more for like a medium-sized business. But I think a lot of people, a lot of companies are sort of trying different stands of getting into the startup environment, investing in startups.
And my understanding is, well, there's a lot, because it's a very mobile first country as well. There's a lot of development going on, especially around apps, and a lot of app companies coming up and coming. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that, well, there's a lot of people who now build apps, so it also means it's cheaper to build an app. Also, a lot of people who've got ideas are getting apps built and testing them out. Yeah.
And then in the book, in Township Biz Fastrack, you had a professor there called Mogezi Makalima, who said that South Africa doesn't need more jobs, it needs more entrepreneurs, which I think was a really great quote. So what's some of the ways that you think that that South Africa can bring on more entrepreneurs? And it's obviously, there seems like there's a strong kind of entrepreneurial culture there, but how do you then take that and actually, really help it flourish?
Well, before I always thought there weren't any sort of institutions that sort of foster entrepreneurs. But of late, I'm a consultant to a couple of can call them incubators, like a couple of entrepreneurship programs. So I'm really getting a feel of what's going on there. There's a lot of incubators that are really getting people into entrepreneurship, and I think it's something that's working, more especially in products like facials. Not so much about the apps, but we sort of replacing like the normal products that you would find in grocery stores. We also, because most of them are sort of international companies, we are coming in with creating our own, and I think I really give credit to the government and a number of private companies that have put money into accelerators and incubators, like those sort of programs. Like I really see progress, and such products are getting into shops as well, which is fantastic.
And we see a place like Silicon Valley, you had like the PayPal mafia, people that kind of started businesses, grew them, exited them from them in one way or the other, and then reinvested them in the next generation of businesses and entrepreneurs. So who are some of the kind of key names in South Africa that you see who have done a great job in terms of being role models for entrepreneurs there, and have actually put their money where their mouth is and actually reinvesting in local, new entrepreneurs?
Well, I don't know the individuals per se, but a lot of investment in sort of tech startups comes from Stellenbosch, that's in Cape Town. So a lot of the guys, I'm sure they've done well in other areas. Okay, I remember the name now. A gentleman by the name of Michael Joran used to be the CEO of one of the banks here, First National Bank. He left that job and to go start his own fund, and they've done quite significant investments in a number of startups.
And then, so I mentioned before that so this idea of kind of entrepreneurship and how it's kind of really developing there as well. One of your new book is a really interesting take on entrepreneurship that I haven't seen done so much before, and so it's this idea that as entrepreneurs, when we start the businesses, and there's a lot of anxiety. So often all the positive stuff is often praised and stuff, but people really talk about often the struggles and the failures. And there was a really nice, an interesting stat that you had within there, which I'd never seen before.